Welcome to Identity and Access Management Crashcasts. I'm your host, Sheila, and today we're diving into the world of single sign-on and multi-factor authentication. We'll be exploring how these technologies balance convenience and security in our increasingly digital world. Joining me as always is our IAM expert, Victor. Victor, are you ready to unravel this topic for our listeners?
Absolutely, Sheila. I'm excited to discuss these crucial components of modern identity management. Before we jump in, listeners should have a basic understanding of authentication and authorization concepts. If you're new to these terms, I recommend checking out our earlier episodes on those topics.
Great point, Victor. Now let's outline today's episode. We'll start with definitions, then explore the benefits and potential risks of SSO and MFA. We'll also discuss implementation challenges and best practices. But first, let's kick things off with a quiz question for our listeners. Here goes. True or false? Using single sign-on eliminates the need for multi-factor authentication. What do you think about this question, Victor?
That's an excellent question, Sheila. It really gets to the heart of a common misconception about SSO and MFA. I think many people might be tempted to answer quickly, but it's worth considering the relationship between these two technologies. Without giving away the answer, I'd encourage our listeners to think about the different purposes SSO and MFA serve in the authentication process.
Well said, Victor. Now let's start with the basics. Can you explain what single sign-on and multi-factor authentication are?
Certainly. Single sign-on, or SSO, is an authentication method that allows users to access multiple applications or services with just one set of credentials. Think of it like a master key for your digital accounts. Multi-factor authentication, or MFA, adds extra layers of security by requiring two or more forms of verification before granting access. This could be something you know, like a password, something you have, like a smartphone, or something you are, like a fingerprint.
That's a great explanation, Victor. So, if I understand correctly, SSO is about convenience, while MFA is about security. How do these two work together to balance these aspects?
You're on the right track, Sheila. SSO does indeed prioritize convenience, but it's not without security benefits. By reducing the number of passwords a user needs to remember, it can actually improve security by encouraging stronger unique passwords. MFA then adds that crucial extra layer of protection. When used together, they create a system that's both user-friendly and highly secure.
That makes sense. Can you tell us a bit more about how SSO actually works? Are there different types?
Absolutely. SSO typically works through protocols like SAML, Security Assertion Markup Language, Auth, or OpenID Connect. These protocols allow different systems to securely share authentication information. When a user logs into one application, that app generates a token that other connected apps can use to verify the user's identity without requiring another login.
Fascinating. And what about MFA? You mentioned different factors earlier. Can you elaborate on those?
Of course. MFA factors generally fall into three categories. Something you know, like a password or PIN, something you have, like a smartphone or security key, and something you are, like a fingerprint or facial recognition. Some systems are now incorporating a fourth factor, somewhere you are, using location data as an additional security check.
That's really interesting, Victor. To help our listeners remember these, let's use a simple memorization technique. We can think of it as know, have, are, where. Core. Does that sound helpful?
That's an excellent mnemonic, Sheila. Core is a great way to remember the types of MFA factors. Now let's dive a bit deeper into some advanced concepts. Have you heard of risk-based authentication?
I've heard the term, but I'm not entirely sure what it means. Could you explain it?
Certainly. Risk-based authentication is an adaptive approach where the system assesses various factors to determine the level of risk associated with a login attempt. Based on this risk assessment, it may require additional verification steps. For example, if a user is logging in from an unfamiliar location or device, the system might prompt for MFA even if it doesn't usually require it.
That sounds really smart. It's like the system is constantly adapting to potential threats. Speaking of potential issues, are there any challenges in implementing these technologies?
Absolutely, Sheila. One major challenge is integrating SSO across diverse applications, especially legacy systems that weren't designed with SSO in mind. Another is balancing security with user experience in MFA implementation. If the process is too cumbersome, users might try to bypass it, undermining its effectiveness.
Those are important considerations. Before we wrap up, do you have any best practices or tips for organizations looking to implement SSO and MFA?
Great question. First, start with a thorough risk assessment to determine which applications need what level of protection. Second, consider using adaptive MFA to balance security and convenience. Third, provide clear user education about why these measures are important and how to use them effectively. And finally, regularly review and update your policies and systems to stay ahead of evolving threats.
Thank you, Victor. Those are excellent tips. Now, let's return to our quiz question. The statement was, using single sign-on eliminates the need for multi-factor authentication. Victor, would you like to reveal the answer?
Certainly, Sheila. The answer is false. While SSO can improve both convenience and security, it doesn't eliminate the need for MFA. In fact, because SSO provides access to multiple applications, it's often even more critical to protect that single point of entry with strong multi-factor authentication.
That's a great explanation, Victor. To summarize today's episode, we've learned that single sign-on and multi-factor authentication are complementary technologies that, when used together, provide a balance of convenience and security. SSO simplifies access across multiple applications, while MFA adds crucial layers of protection. We've also explored concepts like risk-based authentication and the challenges of implementation. Remember, the key to effective identity and access management is finding the right balance for your organization's needs and risk profile.
Excellently summarized, Sheila. I hope our listeners found this information valuable for understanding and implementing these critical security measures.
Thank you, Victor. And thank you to all our listeners for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to Identity and Access Management Crashcasts and leave us a rating. Your support helps us continue providing valuable content. Until next time, stay secure.